Clara scrolled endlessly through her phone, the glow of the screen her only company in the dim apartment. Friends were busy, her family distant, and the city around her felt too large to hold her small existence. She had grown used to the rhythm, lectures, part-time shifts, empty evenings, but it gnawed at her. She longed for someone to notice her, to choose her. That night, as she tapped through suggested profiles, his name appeared, Amir Rahman. His feed looked like a dream she never dared imagine for herself. Polished photos of yachts against turquoise seas, late-night cafes in Istanbul, crisp suits under golden lights. In one picture he smiled with a glass of champagne, and it looked as if the world itself bent toward him. She paused, hovering over the follow button, her heart thudding as if the decision mattered. She pressed it. Minutes later, a notification bloomed on her screen. Amir Rahman has followed you back. Clara's breath caught. Another notification came. This time a message request. You have the kindest eyes. Do you always hide them behind such quiet photos? She read it again, the corners of her lips curving despite herself. No one ever spoke to her like that. She typed, erased, typed again. Finally, I guess I'm not used to anyone noticing them. His reply was immediate. Then they've been wasting their time. You deserve to be seen. The words wrapped around her like warmth she hadn't felt in years. What began as cautious replies slipped into longer exchanges, jokes, confessions, late-night secrets shared as the city outside her window slept. She told him about her cramped apartment, her endless part-time job, her exhaustion. He told her of his travels, the deals he brokered, the loneliness hidden beneath glittering nights. You'd fit in my world, he wrote one evening. Clara stared at the message, her fingers trembling. She wanted to believe it. No one had ever invited her into something bigger. Their chats became ritual. She woke to his good morning texts, closed her eyes with his voice notes still echoing in her ears. Each message chipped away at her loneliness, replacing it with a fragile hope. But in rare moments, doubt pricked at her. His photos felt almost too perfect, his stories polished smooth. Once, when she asked about his family, he changed the subject. Another time, she noticed the same car appearing in different countries. She told herself not to overthink. After all, wasn't everyone entitled to privacy online? Still, the unease never fully left. 2 months slipped by in a blur of digital affection. Clara found herself imagining his hand in hers, his laughter beside her in a cafe, his shadow moving through the same streets she walked alone. One evening, as her phone buzzed again, she whispered to herself, maybe this is fate. And yet, as she opened his latest message, a flicker of doubt lingered. So small, she nearly ignored it. Clara's life began to revolve around the glow of her screen. Amir's messages arrived with precision. Morning greetings laced with compliments, midnight confessions spilling across time zones. His attention wrapped around her like silk, smoothing the jagged edges of her solitude. He didn't just text, he curated experiences. Courier deliveries arrived at her door, roses wrapped in satin, a small necklace tucked in a velvet box, a handwritten note that read, "Every queen deserves her crown." Clara pressed the necklace against her skin, her reflection in the mirror shimmering with a beauty she barely recognized. Her friends noticed the change. At coffee one afternoon, Maya leaned in. "Clara, you don't even know him. People online." "He's not like that," Clara cut in too quickly. "He listens. He cares." Maya's brow furrowed. "That's what they all say." Clara stirred her drink, refusing to meet her friend's eyes. She didn't want the doubts spoken aloud. It felt like tearing holes in the only safe place she had. Amir's world looked flawless. His Instagram overflowed with rooftop dinners and artful landscapes. He tagged luxury hotels in Dubai, Paris, Istanbul. Each post felt like a door cracked open, inviting her to step into his life. She imagined herself beside him in every frame, filling the known space where only he stood. One evening, during a video call, he leaned closer to the camera. "I want to show you something." He flipped the screen, revealing a panoramic view of a penthouse balcony. City lights glittered below like spilled jewels. "This is where I see us, Clara. Dinner under the stars. Music, wine, you by my side." Her throat tightened. "It's beautiful. It's waiting for you." His smile was slow, assured, like he already owned the future. Clara's heart raced. She wanted to believe it was possible, that she could escape the grey walls of her student life for the brilliance of his. But small cracks appeared. His stories sometimes contradicted themselves. A trip he claimed last week would reappear as though it happened months ago. When she asked about the friends in his photos, he brushed it aside with charm. "They're business people, not important." She let it go. The gifts, the attention, the tenderness, it drowned the whispers of suspicion. Late one night as rain streaked her window, Amir's voice note played softly in the dark. "I think about you constantly. You're different, Clara. Pure, not like the women I've known." Her eyes filled with tears. No one had ever spoken of her like that. Yet somewhere in her chest, a quiet unease stirred, fragile but persistent. She silenced it, clutching the phone to her heart as if it could protect her from the truth she refused to see. By the time she drifted to sleep, she had convinced herself of one thing: Amir was real, and so was the future he painted for her. The next morning, his message waited, brighter than the sunrise. "It's time we finally meet." Clara stood at the edge of the arrivals hall, her suitcase handle trembling beneath her grip. The airport buzzed with strangers rushing past, their laughter and reunions only deepening her nervous anticipation. Her phone vibrated. "I see you." She lifted her eyes, searching. And then there he was. Amir walked toward her with the ease of someone who knew he was being watched. Taller than she imagined, dressed in a tailored jacket, a faint smile curving his lips. He opened his arms as if the moment had been rehearsed. Clara stepped forward, and when his embrace closed around her, she felt swallowed by warmth and certainty. His cologne lingered sharp and intoxicating. "You're even more beautiful in person," he murmured against her hair. Her cheeks burned. "I was so afraid this wouldn't feel real." "Real?" He pulled back to look at her, his gaze steady. "It's more than real. You belong here." They drove through the city in a sleek black car he claimed was his. Light streamed past the windows, the skyline towering like a promise. Amir reached for her hand, pressing a kiss against her knuckles, as though sealing an unspoken vow. At dinner, the world glittered. Crystal glasses clinked, a violin played softly, and Amir never let her attention wander. He ordered without asking, dishes arriving in a parade of richness. Clara tasted everything but barely noticed the food. The only thing she could focus on was him. Between bites, he leaned in, his voice low. "There are things you'll need to change if we're to be serious." She blinked. "Change? Your life is too cluttered. Friends who don't understand, men who hover. You don't need them. I'll give you everything you could ever want." Clara hesitated, a small knot tightening in her stomach. "But they're my friends." "Clara," Amir interrupted, his tone firm but softened by a smile. "I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm protecting us. I can't share what's mine." She looked at him, at the gleam in his eyes that carried both tenderness and command. Part of her bristled, but another part, a larger, hungrier part, longed to believe him. No one had ever wanted her enough to be jealous. Maybe this was love. After dinner, they walked along the waterfront, city lights dancing on the water. Amir pulled her close, his arm strong around her waist. Passers-by might have thought they were simply a couple in love. Clara tried to silence the voice whispering that his grip was more like possession than affection. He stopped suddenly, turning her to face him. "Say it," he urged. "Say what?" "That you're mine." Clara froze, the demand hanging heavy. She forced a smile. "I'm yours." Satisfaction lit his features. He kissed her then, fierce and claiming, as though her words had unlocked something. When he finally pulled away, her lips trembled, unsure whether from passion or fear. That night, as she lay in the hotel bed beside him, she studied his face in the dim glow of the city. He slept with one arm draped over her like a chain. She told herself it was safety. She ignored how it felt like restraint. Clara closed her eyes, whispering to herself that this was only the beginning. And beneath the hum of the city, the first seed of doubt began to root itself deeper, silent and unseen. Clara woke to the sound of Amir's voice. He was on the phone, speaking in rapid tones she didn't recognize. His back turned to her. When he noticed she was awake, he ended the call abruptly and smiled as if nothing had happened. "Good morning, Habibti," he said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I was just handling business." She nodded, though unease prickled along her skin. His words carried no trace of warmth, only control disguised as charm. Days together blurred into a rhythm she struggled to keep up with. Amir's attention was relentless. He wanted to know where she went, who she spoke to, even the smallest details of her routine. When she left her phone unattended, she returned to find him scrolling through her messages. "Why did this man send you a smiley face?" His tone cut sharp. "He's just a classmate," Clara stammered. "It's nothing." Amir's eyes narrowed, then softened suddenly. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I only worry because you're precious to me. Do you understand?" She nodded, her chest tight. The gifts kept coming: expensive clothes, designer shoes, a watch that gleamed too bright on her wrist. Yet each gift felt more like a collar than a token of love. He wanted her dressed as he imagined, her choices bending to his vision. One evening they argued when she asked to meet a friend from university. "I haven't seen her in months," Clara pleaded. "It's just coffee." Amir's smile vanished. "Why do you need her when you have me?" "Because she's my friend." "Because I—" He slammed his glass onto the table, wine spilling across the cloth like blood. Clara flinched. His jaw tightened, then he exhaled slowly, forcing calm back into his features. "I didn't mean to scare you," he whispered, taking her trembling hand. "But don't test me. I can't bear the thought of losing you." Clara swallowed her words, fear sealing them inside her. That night he covered her in apologies, wrapping her in promises that it would never happen again. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe the violence in his eyes had been a mistake. But the pattern deepened. Days of sweetness followed by sudden storms, apologies drowned in expensive dinners, guilt softened with whispered endearments. Clara felt herself shrinking, shaping her every action to avoid sparking his anger. When her mother called, Clara lied. "I'm fine. Things are good." She couldn't bear to explain the truth. Couldn't admit that the love she had clung to was beginning to suffocate her. Alone in the bathroom, she studied her reflection. Dark circles beneath her eyes, lips pressed tight, shoulders tense. She barely recognized herself. She touched the necklace Amir had given her, once a symbol of love, now a reminder of how entangled she had become. Still, when Amir knocked gently on the door and asked if she was all right, she forced a smile as she stepped out. "I'm fine." He kissed her forehead, satisfied. She buried her dread, hiding it beneath layers of silence. But inside, Clara felt the cracks widening, and she knew it was only a matter of time before something broke. Rain hammered against the apartment windows, wind howling through the narrow street below. Clara sat at the edge of the sofa, her hands twisting in her lap. Amir paced, phone buzzing constantly in his hand. Each time it lit up, he turned the screen away from her. "Who keeps calling?" she asked, voice fragile. "No one important," he muttered, stuffing the phone into his pocket. Her stomach clenched. She had grown used to evasions, but tonight the silence between them felt heavier, charged with something darker. "Amir," she tried again. "I saw the same woman's name yesterday." "Who is she?" He froze, shoulders rigid. Slowly, he turned to her, his expression hard. "You've been looking through my phone. You left it on the table." "I wasn't snooping. You don't trust me?" His voice rose, sharp enough to slice the air. "I want honesty." The words escaped louder than she intended, trembling with weeks of swallowed fear. "You say I'm the only one, but there are holes in your stories. Things that don't add up." Amir's jaw clenched, his eyes blazing. For a long moment, the only sound was the storm outside. Then he moved, sudden and violent, sweeping a glass from the table. It shattered against the wall, shards raining onto the floor. Clara flinched, heart pounding. "Please, just tell me the truth." "There is no one else." His hand slammed against the wall beside her head, the sound reverberating through her body. "You're mine, Clara, mine. Don't ever question me again." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "This isn't love. This is control. His breath came heavy, his face inches from hers. Then, as if the words pierced something in him, his expression twisted. "You don't understand what you make me do," he hissed. The fight escalated, voices colliding, her pleas against his rage. When she tried to leave, he yanked her back, fingers digging into her arm. Pain shot through her, fear flooding every vein. "Amir, let go! You're hurting me." Her cry only seemed to fuel him. The argument tipped into chaos. Shouts, tears, the crash of objects knocked to the floor. Clara's desperate attempt to push him away ended with his hands tightening around her in fury. He could no longer contain. Neighbors later recalled muffled screams, a thud, then silence swallowed by the storm. When the rage ebbed, Amir stood trembling above her. Clara lay motionless, eyes glassy, lips parted as if she had tried to speak one final time. The room was wrecked. Broken glass, overturned furniture, rain still lashing at the windows, as though the world itself bore witness. Amir's chest heaved. He dropped to his knees, pressing his hands to his face. "No, no, no," the words broke from him in a strangled whisper. He touched her cheek, the warmth already fading beneath his fingers. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he murmured, rocking back and forth. I loved you. But the silence around him deepened, swallowing his words whole. Outside, the storm raged on, indifferent to the tragedy that had just unfolded within those walls. Morning broke grey and hollow, the storm's fury replaced by a silence too sharp to bear. Police tape stretched across the apartment door as officers filed in, cameras flashing, voices clipped and professional. Neighbors gathered in the hallway, whispering behind hands, their faces pale with the weight of what they'd heard. Clara's body was carried out beneath a white sheet. Her hair slipped loose at the edge, and for a fleeting second it looked as though she might stir, but the stillness was final, unbroken. Her mother arrived hours later, collapsing at the sight. "My baby, my Clara." Her cries echoed through the corridor, raw and devastating. No one could find the words to soothe her. News traveled fast. Social media lit up with Clara's photos, smiling snapshots pulled from her Instagram, captions filled with disbelief. She was so sweet. How could this happen? Friends shared old messages, guilt rising with every memory of warnings unheeded. And then there was Amir, arrested within the hour, hands bound, eyes hollow. Cameras swarmed as he was led away. Reporters shouting questions. "Amir, did you kill her? Was it jealousy? Was it planned?" He kept his head down, jaw tight. At the station, he told officers the same story again and again. "It was an accident. I didn't mean it. I loved her." The evidence said otherwise. Clara's bruises spoke louder than his pleas, the shattered glass a chorus of violence. Investigators uncovered a pattern, other women he had charmed online, brief encounters that ended abruptly. Clara was not the first to be lured by his promises, only the first to pay with her life. At the funeral, Clara's friends stood shoulder to shoulder, the church heavy with grief. Maya clutched a photo frame, tears streaking her cheeks. "She told me he was different," she whispered to another friend. "I should have made her listen." Her mother sat in the front row, hands clenched around a rosary, face carved by anguish. Every word of the priest's sermon fell against her like stones. Love had promised Clara escape, but instead it led her here to a grave too soon. Meanwhile, Amir awaited trial. In interviews from his cell, he spoke with the same charm that had once lured Clara. "I never hurt her," he insisted to anyone who would listen. "It was love gone wrong. People will never understand." But the world had already made up its mind. To them, he was a predator hiding behind curated perfection, a warning in flesh and blood of the dangers woven into glossy feeds. As weeks turned into months, Clara's name faded from headlines, replaced by new tragedies, new stories. Yet for her family, time did not move forward. Her absence filled every room, her laughter replaced by silence. Justice crept on slowly, but the cost was already unbearable. And in the quiet behind bars, Amir still whispered her name. Clara's Instagram remained untouched, frozen in time. Her last photo, a blurred shot of city lights from the hotel window, still carried the caption, "New Beginnings." Hundreds of comments gathered beneath it, voices from strangers and friends alike. Some left broken hearts, others whispered apologies too late. Her page became a shrine. Old classmates scrolled through pictures of her smiling at campus parties, coffee cups in hand, sunlit afternoons where she seemed safe. Each post turned into evidence of what had been lost, reminders that the girl behind the lens had believed in something brighter. Maya visited the profile every night. She typed long messages, telling Clara about her days, about how empty things felt without her. Then she deleted them, leaving only short notes. "I miss you. I'm sorry." Her mother couldn't bear to look at the account. Yet sometimes, late at night, she opened it anyway, staring at her daughter's face through tears. She whispered to the screen as though Clara might answer. "If only I had stopped you." The account gathered followers, curious strangers pulled by headlines. They scrolled through Clara's filtered joy, some leaving warnings to others. "Be careful who you trust online. She deserved better." Her tragedy became both story and cautionary tale. Meanwhile, Amir's photos vanished from the platform, deactivated after his arrest. But screenshots circulated, reminders of how perfect he once seemed. His polished smile stared back from shared posts. Now seen through the lens of violence, people dissected every image, asking how anyone could have missed the danger. For Clara's family, justice came slowly. Each hearing dragged them through memories they wanted to bury. In court, Amir repeated his refrain, "I loved her. It was an accident." But the jury saw the bruises, the messages of control, the pattern of lies. When the verdict was read guilty, there was no relief, only silence. No sentence could undo what had been done. Weeks later, Maya returned to Clara's profile. She scrolled until she reached the first picture Amir had ever liked. Clara in a bookstore, smiling shyly at the camera. A stranger in the comments had written, "She didn't know the devil was already watching." Maya's hands shook as she set down the phone. She closed her eyes, hearing Clara's laughter echo faintly in her memory. Life moved forward, as it always does. New posts filled the feeds of those who had once known Clara, birthdays, weddings, graduations. But her account lingered, a digital ghost that no one could delete. And in the quiet hours, when the city slept, the blue glow of her profile remained, her smile captured forever, her story etched into pixels, warning anyone who dared believe too blindly in love, crafted from shadows.